Picture this. You're at the grocery store, Tuesday morning, 9:47 a.m., and there's this older guy, maybe early 70s, standing there comparing prices on two different brands of paper towels. He's got those New Balance sneakers that have clearly been around the block a few times, khaki shorts with actual functional pockets, and a polo shirt that's been washed so many times it's achieved that perfect broken-in comfort level. His cart? Generic store brand coffee, some vegetables, and those reusable cloth shopping bags from like 2009. You think to yourself, just another retiree stretching their social security check, right? Wrong. Here's what research on millionaire spending habits actually shows us. People who look exactly like this, the coupon clippers, the store brand buyers, the people wearing 15-year-old sneakers, are statistically more likely to be sitting on seven-figure portfolios than the guy in the parking lot with the leased BMW. Everything we think we know about wealth today, completely backward. My name is Matt, and today we're diving into the bizarre, counterintuitive world of the quiet, wealthy retiree. And I'm telling you, nothing about these people makes sense until suddenly all of it makes perfect sense. They all share 5 specific habits that completely separate them from everyone else. Habit 1. They track every dollar like it's still 1987. Okay, this one breaks people's brains. These retirees have millions, literally millions, sitting in their bank accounts, and yet they still track their spending with the intensity of someone living paycheck to paycheck. Why? Not because they have to, because that's literally how they built the wealth in the first place. And stopping now would be like a professional athlete retiring and immediately eating McDonald's for every meal. It just doesn't make sense. These people know exactly what they spent on groceries last month. They know their average utility costs. They know how much they're paying for streaming services, insurance, everything. And before you say, that sounds exhausting, let me explain why it's actually not. They're not tracking spending to restrict themselves or be miserable. They're tracking it to make intentional decisions. Think about it. If you know you spent $400 on restaurants last month, you can actually decide if that felt worth it. Maybe those meals were incredible and you want to keep that going. Or maybe you realize half of them were mediocre and you'd rather cook at home and save that money for something better, like an amazing vacation. The tracking gives you the power to choose. Compare that to the average retiree who has no idea where their money goes. They just know the account balance keeps going down faster than expected. They're spending on autopilot. And let me tell you, autopilot is expensive. Subscriptions they forgot about, impulse purchases that seemed small at the time, restaurant meals that were fine but not memorable, it all adds up to thousands of dollars a year that just vanish without providing any real value. Most people think tracking spending sounds exhausting and restrictive, but wealthy retirees know that not tracking spending is what's actually exhausting, because you're always vaguely anxious about money without even knowing why. Habit 2. The 30-day rule. No exceptions. All right, this habit is so simple it sounds stupid, but it's also devastatingly effective. Wealthy retirees have figured out something that destroys most people's finances. The difference between wanting something and actually needing it becomes crystal clear after 30 days. This isn't about being cheap. This is about being ruthless with opportunity cost. Here's how it works. When they see something they want to buy, a new piece of furniture, a gadget, even a car, they write it down with the date. Then they wait, 30 days minimum. And during those 30 days, something fascinating happens. They realize they don't actually want it anymore. The desire just fades. They forget about it, or they realize their current version works perfectly fine. Meanwhile, the average person operates on instant gratification. They see something, they want it, they buy it, and then it sits in their garage or closet barely used. The credit card bill comes, they feel vaguely guilty, and they repeat the cycle next month. They're hemorrhaging money on things that provide maybe 2 days of happiness, followed by months of buyer's remorse. Wealthy retirees have completely eliminated this cycle. They've trained themselves to separate the dopamine hit of wanting something from the actual value of owning it. And because they're not constantly buying stuff they don't need, when they do make a purchase after that 30-day period, they can afford to buy the high-quality version that will last for decades. So they end up with better stuff and more money. That's the power of delayed gratification. Habit 3. Own assets that go up, rent everything else. Okay, this is where wealthy retirees demonstrate thinking that's completely alien to normal people. They understand the fundamental difference between assets that go up in value and assets that go down in value, and they structure their entire financial life around owning the first kind and avoiding or renting the second kind. Their house, owned outright. Their investment portfolio, obviously owned. These are things that either appreciate or generate income. But their car? That's a depreciating asset, so they buy reliable, unsexy vehicles that lose value slowly and cost almost nothing to maintain. They're not trying to impress anyone with their transportation. They're trying to get from point A to point B while losing as little money as possible to depreciation. And the math on this is absolutely brutal. Listen to this. A new luxury car loses about 20 to 30% of its value the moment you drive it off the lot. On a $60,000 vehicle, that's $12,000 to $18,000 that just evaporates before you even get home. Then it continues losing about 10 to 15% each year for the next 5 years. Meanwhile, a 3-year-old Honda Accord or Toyota Camry has already taken the biggest depreciation hit. You can buy it for $25,000 instead of $40,000 when new, drive it for 10 years, and sell it for $8,000. Your total depreciation cost? $17,000 over 10 years. That's about $1,700 per year. The person who bought the luxury car new is losing $4,000 to $6,000 a year just in depreciation, not counting the higher insurance, maintenance, and repair costs. Now here's what wealthy retirees do with that $4,000 annual difference. They invest it. Over 10 years at 7% annual returns, that becomes $55,000. They essentially got paid $55,000 to drive a slightly less prestigious car. And here's the thing, both cars got them to the exact same destinations. This thinking extends to everything. Boats, almost never owned by wealthy retirees, unless boating is their primary passion, because boats depreciate faster than cars and cost a fortune to maintain and store. They'll rent a boat 3 times a year and spend less than 5% of what ownership would cost. Luxury vacation homes, often rented rather than owned, because owning means property taxes, maintenance, insurance, and money tied up in an asset that could be invested for better returns. The wealthy retiree's portfolio is full of stocks, bonds, and real estate investment trusts, things that generate passive income and appreciate over time. Their garage has a reliable 8-year-old sedan that cost almost nothing to operate. They figured out that wealth isn't about owning impressive things, it's about owning things that make you more money. Habit 4. Strategic splurging. Okay, this is where people completely misunderstand wealthy retirees. They think these people are misers who never enjoy their money. Wealthy retirees spend extravagantly on things they genuinely value, and they do it without guilt because they've ruthlessly cut spending on everything else. This is the difference between being cheap and being frugal. Cheap people try to spend as little as possible on everything. Frugal, wealthy people spend as little as possible on things that don't matter to them so they can spend lavishly on things that do. So you might have a wealthy retiree who wears the same 5 polo shirts in rotation for 10 years, buys store-brand paper towels, and drives a decade-old car. Then they'll drop $5,000 on a 2-week trip to Italy, staying in actually nice hotels and eating at restaurants that locals recommend. They're not splitting appetizers or hunting for the cheapest accommodation. They're going all in on an experience they've determined is worth the money. Or they might spend $20,000 on a home workshop with top-quality tools because woodworking is their passion. They'll use those tools for the next 30 years, creating things they love and getting more value out of that investment than most people get from a luxury car. The key here is intentionality. They've sat down and thought hard about what actually brings them joy and satisfaction. Then they've structured their spending to maximize those things while minimizing everything else. Most people do the opposite. They spend mindlessly on everything and then feel guilty when they can't afford the things they actually care about. This habit also requires saying no to social pressure. Your friends want to go to an expensive restaurant you don't care about? Wealthy retirees politely decline or suggest alternatives. Your neighbor just bought a new car and expects you to do the same? Wealthy retirees literally don't care. They've built such strong financial foundations that they're completely immune to keeping up with the Joneses. The result, every major purchase and experience is deeply satisfying because it's been carefully chosen and fully funded without sacrifice or debt. They're not experiencing buyer's remorse because they're not buying things that don't align with their values. And they're definitely not lying awake at night worried about credit card bills because they only spend money they actually have.
Habit 5. Health is the ultimate investment. All right, this last habit might seem obvious, but stay with me because most people completely ignore it. Wealthy retirees have figured out that your health is the best investment you can possibly make in retirement. Every dollar spent on preventative care and healthy living returns $10 in avoided medical costs and improved quality of life. These people exercise 6 days a week, but not at expensive gyms with personal trainers. They walk, they hike, they swim at the community pool. They do bodyweight exercises or use resistance bands that cost $30 and last 15 years. They've discovered that expensive fitness equipment and fancy gym memberships don't make you healthier, consistent movement does. The dietary habits are even more revealing. Wealthy retirees cook most of their meals at home, not because they can't afford restaurants, but because it's the only way to actually control what goes into their bodies. They've realized that restaurant food is engineered to taste good, not to be healthy. And that distinction matters enormously when you're trying to avoid diabetes, heart disease, and the other expensive chronic conditions that destroy retirements. They also get every preventative screening recommended for their age group: colonoscopies, mammograms, skin cancer checks, annual physicals. They treat these like mandatory maintenance on a valuable asset, which is exactly what they are. The math here is simple. Spending $1,000 on preventative screenings can catch a problem that would cost $100,000 to treat later. Wealthy retirees do the math and show up for the screening. They view sleep as non-negotiable. They're not staying up late binge-watching shows or scrolling social media. They're getting 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep every night because they've read the research showing that chronic sleep deprivation increases your risk of Alzheimer's, heart disease, diabetes, and basically every other condition you want to avoid. And the financial impact of this health-focused lifestyle? Absolutely staggering. The average American over 65 spends about $7,000 to $8,000 per year on healthcare costs, including insurance premiums, deductibles, and out-of-pocket expenses. Wealthy retirees who've maintained their health could spend $2,000 to $3,000 less per year. Over a 25-year retirement, that's about $50,000 difference, and that's before accounting for the catastrophic costs of conditions that could have been prevented. Now look, let's be real for a second. This doesn't mean we're 100% in control of our health. Genetics matter. Accidents happen. Some illnesses show up no matter how disciplined you are. You can do everything right and still face a diagnosis you didn't see coming. Wealthy retirees understand this too. Their approach isn't about guaranteeing perfect health. It's about stacking the odds in their favor. They can't control everything, but they focus intensely on what they can control: movement, nutrition, sleep, and preventative care. Over decades, those controllable habits dramatically shift the probability curve. We all understand that these 5 habits aren't some magic formula that guarantees wealth. Life is way more complicated than that. Timing matters. Where you were born matters. Economic opportunities, family circumstances, health challenges, education access, all of these factors play a massive role. Some people follow every single one of these habits and still face financial struggles because of circumstances beyond their control. What these habits do is maximize your chances within whatever situation you're in. They give you the best possible shot at building and maintaining wealth. These aren't people with superhuman willpower or secret knowledge. They're people who learned early that the price of anything is the amount of life you exchange for it, and they've optimized that exchange ruthlessly. They figured out that true wealth isn't about having expensive things. It's about having choices, security, and freedom from financial stress. That's the quiet, wealthy retiree way, optimizing for substance instead of appearance every single time. If you found this helpful, make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling me which of these 5 habits you're going to start implementing. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, especially someone who's always trying to keep up with the Joneses, share this video with them. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.